welcome to another Lakehead International Live. Today we are doing another Monday meetup. Today's topic is how to apply to an undergraduate program. So we are joined by a special guest from our international admissions team. For those of you who haven't joined before, my name is Jordan. I am the International New and Social Media Officer here at Lakehead. I help oversee our social media, help run our live events. I do plenty more as well, but I'll pass over to Patrick to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Carr, International Recruitment Officer here at Lakehead University. I typically work with students who are based in the Middle East as well as Africa and the Caribbean. However, I'm happy to be here today to answer any questions for all of my colleagues who you may have met who are based around the world. So I'm excited to talk about our undergraduate admissions programs and how to apply.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrick. And next I'll pass over to our special guest, Natalie Wong, who is an international admissions officer here at Lakehead.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet with you virtually today. My name is Natalie, and I am the International Admissions Officer, so I do the assessment of all our undergraduate applications.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us, Natalie. We're definitely excited to chat about this topic. I know that over the past few weeks, we've been noticing quite a few inquiries about students still wishing to apply for the upcoming fall 2020 semester for undergraduate programs, of course, as well as graduate programs. But today we're joined, of course, by undergraduate team. So we're going to dive into that entire application process. Before we begin, though, we'll chat briefly about the Lakehead International Live series. So we are live every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. On Mondays, we do Monday Meetup. Tuesdays and Thursdays over on Instagram Live, we're meeting a current student on the live. On Wednesdays, Natalie is typically back with our graduate admissions team as well. We're answering questions from our current applicants, our future applicants, about application-related questions, admissions, all that sort of stuff. And then this Friday, we're also going to be sitting down with the Department of Mathematical Sciences, and we're going to be chatting about that program and some of the unique learning opportunities within there, pardon me. So we're really excited for the rest of the week to follow through, but like I said before we move on, what are we going to cover today? So steps to enrolling, we're going to pass that off to Patrick to start off. He'll chat about some of the general admission requirements for our undergraduate programs. And then we'll go over the undergraduate application guidelines. We're actually going to do a walkthrough, a step-by-step of each screen you'll encounter on the undergraduate application form. And then we're going to chat about what is my info. We'll chat about uploading your documents, letter of acceptances, accepting your offer, and then confirming deposits. So I know that this is a large topic, many things that we got to cover, so I won't delay any further. Things to remember: if you like what you see, don't worry, we will upload it to our YouTube channel shortly after. If you missed something, if you have to head out early, if you want to watch something once again, please feel free to head over there. If you have questions for us for today's session, I encourage you, if you're joining us on Zoom, use the Q&A function to submit those questions. We'll be happy to address them throughout the entire webinar. If you're over on Facebook, you can always comment on that Facebook Live. And if you're watching this as a recording, whether it be on Facebook or whether it be on YouTube, if you comment on that video, we do still receive the notification, and we're happy to answer your question after the fact. And last but not least, I do encourage everyone to stay connected with us on our social media channels. We post regular updates with major announcements out of the university, but also regular updates for upcoming live events, opportunities for you to stay connected with us, all sorts of things. We're over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and then for those of you joining in China, we're also on Weibo, WeChat, and Youku. Without further ado, we'll chat about steps to enrolling. So first, we're going to go over the admission requirements and how to meet those admission requirements. Then we'll chat about the English language proficiency requirements. We'll chat about applying online and submitting documents. So this time I'll pass it over to Patrick Carr, who will chat briefly about meeting the general admission requirements.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. So when we talk about meeting our general admission requirements, we're talking about the baseline average that all students need to meet to get into Lakehead University. And the first thing we look for is successful graduation from a academic secondary school, which means a high school, a secondary school. Depending on where you are in the world, this could be something like completing completing the IB program or the British Pattern A levels or CAPE curriculum. It also might be taking something like the WIAC test results, and it varies from country to country, but essentially it's completing high school. We look for a Canadian equivalent of a 70% average overall. And so what that means is to ensure everyone is treated fairly across the world is we convert all of everyone's marks into percentile grades, and then we create an academic average, a percentile grade. And everyone needs to meet a minimum of 70% overall in their final average. We'll talk about a little bit more about kind of how that varies from country to country, but if you have questions, I'd encourage you to email us today. And then lastly, depending on your program, you might have prerequisite courses. So prerequisite courses are classes that you have to take in secondary school. And these classes are subjects that make sure you have the foundational knowledge we think you need to be successful in your university program. For some programs, this could be very basic, like completion of an English literature course. In others, this could be a few extra courses, things like in engineering, we would like to see mathematics, chemistry, physics, as well as an English literature course. So depending on your program, your prerequisites can vary.
So then,
The other thing oh, sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
I'll pass it over to you again, Patrick, to cover the English language proficiency requirements as well.
Yeah, so the other thing we need for many international students to do is they need to meet an English language proficiency requirement. You need to prove that you are able to study in English as part of your application to the university, but it really should be noted that for many students, all you have to do is show that you are studying the last 3 years in a primarily English language school system. So for our students who are studying in IB curriculums across the world, or in a country where the primary language is English and the secondary school is taught in English, you don't need to necessarily provide us with an English language test, just proof that you have been studying in that school for 3 years. And usually this comes in form of a letter from your school's office or counselor on the official letterhead stating that the primary method of instruction is in English.
Awesome, and then I'll get you to cover this one as well, Patrick.
Yeah, so if you haven't been studying in English and you do need to write an English language test to meet our proficiency requirements, we do accept a variety of tests. For the IELTS, which is one of the more common tests currently in the world, we see a lot of students taking the IELTS, and you need a score of 6.5 with no score lower than 6. We also accept the TOEFL, the Cambridge Academic English Test, and the PTE Academic English Test, and new and temporarily, because of the current COVID-19 public health crisis, we're also accepting the Duolingo English Test. And so if you're doing the DET, you need 110. This is for most programs. However, there are specific programs that do have slightly higher academic English requirements. Those would be nursing and education, and I believe that's it for the undergraduate programs. Awesome. And if we're talking about meeting English language requirements, and say you apply to Lakehead and you don't meet our English language requirements, we do have a great academic English program that you could take before you start your undergraduate degree. It's certified by Languages Canada. It covers the 4 essential English skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And we have a great social cultural program attached to our academic English program if you decide to take that as opposed to providing an English proficiency test.
Awesome. And then also to note, I know that I've been working closely with the English Language Center recently to help them kind of to advertise, if you might say, or kind of showcase their move to online and completing this English language program, academic English program, so that the students that are currently completing it this summer will be able to move directly into their program this fall without any delay. So it's really exciting to see that they've been able to start offering that online as well to make sure students are going to meet their requirements in a timely manner. And last but not least, the last couple points that we have. So once you've met the once you've met the admission requirements, and then you're satisfied with, you're going to how you're going to meet the academic English requirements, then we encourage you to certainly apply online. So the undergraduate application link is there listed on there. So if you want to take a screenshot, if you want to take a moment to write that down, I certainly encourage you to do that. If you want us to also maybe provide you a direct link, you can always send us an email over at welcome@lakeheadu.ca, and we'd be happy to connect you with that. I'll pass it over to Natalie to chat a bit about applying to undergraduate programs right now and what it looks like for fall 2020.
Thanks, Jordan. So for anyone who is currently in progress and considering applying, we do encourage you to apply as soon as possible. Our applications for the fall are still open. So if this is something that you are considering, we would encourage you to apply. Our offers at Lakehead are valid for both semesters, both the fall and the winter semester. So our current offers are valid for fall 2020 and winter 2021, which starts in January. So if you are considering January, our applications are not open yet. They will open at the end of the month. However, if you do apply for fall, that offer will remain valid for January.
Awesome, thank you. And then, of course, once you apply online, comes the next really important part of the process, is submitting those documents so that our team in undergraduate admissions can certainly review those documents and review them for admissibility. So then hopefully we can provide you with that letter of acceptance as soon as possible. So I do want to hop over to the questions. We have one good question right now that I know that we can address, and we'll continue to address questions throughout today's webinar. But the question is with regards to visas and study permits. So I'll pass this on over to Patrick. Patrick, do students need to pay the full fees to university before commencing their visa applications? And then they would like to know, what are the exact fees they need to pay? So if you could speak to the first question, and then if you would like, I can speak to the second one.
Sure. Thank you for this question, Jordan, and thank you for this visa question. In terms of, do you have to pay for your entire fees prior to starting the visa process? The answer depends a little bit on which visa process you are undergoing. For the SDS, I would encourage you to review the visa requirements, as SDS has slightly different requirements than the general study permit application. For the general study permit and temporary residence visa application, you do not need to pay all of your fees ahead of time. I will post a link to the Canadian government's requirements in the chat so that you can review them. In terms of what exactly fees you do need to pay, well, to apply for your visa, there is a cost that you would pay to the Government of Canada, and with Lakehead, you would also want to confirm your offer with your confirmation deposit. And the only thing we actually give you that you need for your visa process is your letter of acceptance that shows that you are a genuine student applicant.
Awesome. And then I think that there also could be a second part to that question, or I could see it in a different light, as what are the exact fees that you need to pay to Lakehead? So what are your exact academic related fees? If you would like to review that, you can actually head over to lakeheadu.ca/tuition. That is our easy website to access. And then whether you're pursuing undergraduate or graduate programs, all of our 2020/2021 fees are already published on that website. All you have to do is simply plug in a few details, whether you'll be studying full-time or part-time, what your entry date is, of course, what program and what level of study it's going to be at, and then it will actually calculate what your fees are going to be. As well, once the registration process is completed, which is going to happen later this month for undergraduate students and mid-July for graduate students, within typically a few business days of that registration process happening, your fees are actually already applied onto your student account already, and you can then be extra sure of what the fees are going to be. But like I said, the ones published on our website are going to reflect what shows up in your student account as well in the coming months. So moving on, before you begin your application, with our online undergraduate application, you actually have the option of applying for 2 programs. So we always encourage our students to have 2 program options selected. Of course, you have your focus of your first program. What one do you truly want to focus on? What one do you want to pursue? And then if there's maybe a secondary option, something as not necessarily a backup, but another passion, over the next couple months, you might see changing interests. You might have a change of heart and decide I would rather pursue something different. So we always encourage you to explore that and use the secondary application to its full advantage. We also encourage you to allow at least 20 minutes to complete the full application. At this time, we don't have the ability to save the application midway through. So you have to make sure that you can complete it from beginning to end in one sitting, but it's not too long, I can confirm, and we're about to go through this step by step. So you'll get a good idea of what that looks like. And last but not least, if your method of payment is going to be credit card, of course, make sure to have that ready at the very end so that the payment goes through immediately. And then once we do receive that application, we import those applications, run our processes here at Lakehead, and then you will receive an acknowledgement email based on whatever current email you list in the application, just saying, yes, we've received your application, we're excited to review it, and we actually provide you more details to start getting set up on that student account, the MyInfo. So once again, the undergraduate application guidelines, this is where me and Natalie are going to dive into a step-by-step. Some screenshots here are coming up, so don't you worry. And that link to the online undergraduate application form is on your screen right now. So it's page 1. The very first thing that you have to do is you have to declare whether you are a previous Lakehead student, and this also includes if you are a previous applicant of Lakehead. We need to know this information, of course, so that if you are a previous student or a previous applicant, you would have already been assigned a student ID. So the first question, have you previously applied to Lakehead University, yes or no? If it's a no, perfect. All you have to do is click the no and hit submit. If it is a yes, all that we ask is that you do enter in your 7-digit student ID in the field right there. And it helps us match up your application to your previous information files. So I'm just going to flip over to the Q&A. I'll see if we have any questions that are related to the topic at hand. I know we also have Lakehead experts behind the scenes that will be answering questions too. So if we're not able to answer you live, don't worry. We certainly hope to get you an answer by text as well. So there's a couple questions about deposits. I'll let our team behind the scenes answer the deposit questions for now, just so that we can make sure that we make it through the full application here. So the next stage is to declare whether or not you are a Canadian citizen. So if you are a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, there is a tab there for you. The application process looks slightly different, and there are different requirements too based on that. So that's a very key question for us. Of course, as an international audience member and as an international department with our international admissions officer, we will be focused on the international side of the application. So once you've clicked that, you will be asked to declare your academic intent. So maybe I'll pass over to Natalie, to kind of go over the difference between some of these.
Sure, thanks, Jordan. So if you are planning on going into an undergraduate program, which I'm going to guess that most of those of you who are attending this webinar are, most of you will be selecting the second option. I want to apply for an undergraduate program and study on a full-time basis. So as an international student, you will be required to study full-time, and this will be if you want to go in an undergraduate program like engineering, business, computer science. All of these will be under this category. If you are an agent attending this webinar, then you'll want to select the second option, and that will allow you to apply on behalf of your student. And the only other thing that some of you may be wanting to do is apply for the academic English program. So this would be if you don't want to apply for an undergraduate program and that you want to apply only for the academic English program. All the other ones are likely not ones that will apply for you. So likely most of you guys will fall under the second option. I want to apply for an undergraduate program and study on a full-time basis, or if you're an agent, the third option.
Awesome. And also just to note very quickly, I know that our agents and school counselors were invited to today's webinar. So I want to note that, of course, the application that we are going to go through is more specific to a student who is going to complete it. We do have a dedicated position here within our department for the portfolio of agent relations. So if you want to connect with Amanda Mejia for more information about the agent-specific application, she recently did a training series with on Zoom virtually, so you can always connect with her and still learn how to do an agent-specific application. But of course, we'll move forward. We'll assume that we went with option 2. I want to apply for undergraduate.
I will just say that the application is the same. However, if you do select the third option, if you are an agent, this slide after, sorry, the page after this, so page 4 for the agent would be entering your agent ID number, and then the rest of the application is the same. So the only difference is if you are an agent that you would need to provide your agent ID.
For sure. Awesome. So assuming that we're catering to the audience of students wishing to apply on behalf of themselves, so we would assume that most likely you will be going with option number 2. I want to apply for an undergraduate program and study on a full-time basis. So moving forward, you will be required to do the program selection. So you'll see here we did a sample. Program choice, you do have to select which campus you intend on applying for. And then you will be asked which subject it's going to be within or which department. And then we do ask you to declare sort of exactly which degree it is pursuing. For example, with computer science, you can also have the co-op attached to that. And there's a few other options. So you definitely want to make sure that you are fully aware of what degree type it's going to be. And then the last slot there, the fourth and final tab and drop down, is going to be declaring when you would like to start the program. So in this case, we have it set for fall 2020. And once again, to remind everyone, as we've said before, there are 2 program options, or choices I should say. So we always encourage you, if you have a secondary program that you're still interested in, you're between a couple options, absolutely take the opportunity to submit it now. And we will review your application for both programs for sure. So stage 5, or the page 5, I should say, is biographical information. So I've specifically highlighted the current email address because this current email address will be the email that we connect with you right off the bat with. So it's important that you use an email that you truly do use. We don't intend on spamming it. We wouldn't share it with anyone. You are protected with that based on some of the rights that you have as an applicant. But we want to make sure that you're not using an email that's just meant for spam, because the emails that we communicate with you as an applicant, of course, are pretty important, and we certainly want to stay connected with you also. Going through some of the other things that you'll have to fill out. Right now, maybe Natalie, you could speak to the required fields, because I know there are 2 required fields, but I also know it's important we encourage to have full details on the applicants as well.
Yeah, so when filling out your biographical information, you want to make sure that you are including what appears on your passport. So your first and your last name, or a possible middle name on your passport. So make sure you're double checking your passport to see the format that your name is written on your passport before filling out the application, as your letter of acceptance will reflect what you've written.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then personal contact details. I'll pass this one over to Natalie as well to speak to kind of the importance of providing, once again, the proper contact details so that we can stay connected and whatnot.
Yeah, this is also one that I would encourage you. Not all countries, but some countries also have an address on their passports. For example, in India, you may have an address on your passport. So we often have people coming back to us saying, oh, can you update my address or my name? So please just ensure you are including all the details that are on your identification that you may be using for your visa application process. So make sure that information is reflected on your application. again, this is where we would be mailing through the post your letter of acceptance. So make sure that that is also accurate, including your phone number. Some of our recruiters, either in Canada or internationally, may want to call and follow up with you over the phone or help you through some different processes like residence or registration. So ensuring that all this information is correct is very important.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. And then moving on to page 7, so the Citizenship Declaration. I can speak to the first 3 points, of course. Country of citizenship, once again, very important to provide the information that is going to reflect your passport and reflect the true status of your citizenship. And then residency status in Canada. Maybe, Natalie, I could get you to cover if you're remembering exactly what those drop downs will be for our students.
Sure. So the options will be Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or study permit. So if you are an international student, then you will be selecting study permit. First language spoken, as Canada has 2 official languages, English and French, you can select either English or French or other. So if English or French is not your first language, then select other. And then for date of entry into Canada, since most of you aren't in Canada right now, you just enter your suspected date of entry into Canada. So usually that would be the beginning of September if you are planning to start in the fall. So select some date. It doesn't need to be the exact date because you don't know that yet. So usually I just recommend selecting the beginning of September or the beginning of January if you are applying for the January semester.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then page 8, academic history. So of course, just to consider the timing and everything, I won't go over all of the important instructions listed there. But when you are actually doing the application yourself, I do encourage you to absolutely read these and fully understand them. We're here to help. So if you do need to connect with us offline, or if you want to reach out to us, if you have any more questions specific to some of the notes on the screen, we'd be happy to do that. But there is one specific thing that I do like to note, and I know that it can be sometimes confusing to students. So when we do ask you to declare your academic history, of course, we want to see your full academic history, and that includes if you've been to schools for maybe even just 1 semester. We still need to see that academic history, and we want to see that declared. In our system, I know that we have a absolutely massive list of schools from around the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your school will be populated in our system. In cases such as that, if the school is not populated in our system, we will ask you to actually then select one of the options circled in purple there. So, for example, if your high school is not listed on our system, you would select secondary school not found. And we'll show you a screenshot of what that actually looks like. So in this case, it was post-secondary school not found. You'll do your graduation year, when you started, so from and to, the status, so whether you've graduated, whether it's incomplete, that sort of stuff, and then of course the type. Once you've completed that, this is again specific to only schools that have not been found in our system, so whether it be a post-secondary or just a secondary school that has not been found. We ask you then in the comments to actually just comment the full school name. So then we know what to anticipate when we do receive those transcripts. So we'll know in the system that you've listed a specific school that wasn't found in our database, but we can also then reference the comments to know what transcripts to expect coming from you still. So then we can attach it to your application properly. Natalie, did you have any notes to add for that as well?
One thing that I may add, if you are unable to find your institution, but you have done a standardized board or examination, for example, you've done the WIAC, you could always type in WIAC so that would populate. We do have those standardized CBSE, WIAC, Punjab Education Board, those types of things, we do have those in our system. So if you are having any difficulty, you could always put the board or the examination body that you are or will be completing.
Awesome, thank you. So page 10 is a simple application review. So you'll see, if you remember, a few slides ago, I said that our sample was the Honors Bachelor of Science in Computer Science program for fall 2020 start on the Thunder Bay campus. In this case, we didn't have the second choice, but it just kind of reviews the very basic information. The application ID, we certainly encourage you to take note of that. Just keep it on record for your case and for your safekeeping and whatnot. And then application declaration. So of course, read this in full detail, make sure you fully understand it. And then it moves into the application fee and the payment method. So at this time, the application fee is 135 Canadian dollars for undergraduate studies. But I'll pass over to Natalie to speak to the additional fees if those are applicable.
Sure. So the application fee is $135 if you are a high school applicant. However, if you do have post-secondary education, there is an additional $60 fee if you are attending a university or a college, because we do complete a transfer credit assessment for those. So that is for that additional fee. So if you are or have attended a post-secondary institution, college, university, technical training, anything after high school that is required on your application. As you can read here on this page, is that you are required to provide that proof, and by submitting the application, you are declaring that all the information is correct and complete. So if you have attended post-secondary, ensure you are declaring that on the application, and then that additional fee will apply.
Awesome, thank you so much, Natalie. So then the next step, once you've submitted that successfully, we're not going to walk through the full credit card payment process because it does vary, of course, based on which credit card provider you're going through. And we don't have a sample credit card to put up on the screen there, but you'll see this submission reminder. So the next stage of the screen, you'll actually see your application has been successfully submitted. And then maybe, Natalie, you could speak to kind of the 4 points at the very bottom: the student ID, username, temporary password, and application reference number.
Yeah, so once you submit the application, you will be given a student ID number. So this will be, if you do attend Lakehead, that will be the student number that will follow you throughout your studies. This will be on your letter of acceptance. This will be how you will be identified at Lakehead University. Your username will be your username to access your Lakehead MyInfo account, as well as your Lakehead email account. And then your temporary password, again, that will be your password to get into your MyInfo account, and then it will ask you to reset your password when you enter. And then I always encourage students to change it right away so that you don't forget it. So that's all that information. So like Jordan said, I would just encourage you, once you submit the application, if you're on your phone, take a screenshot. If you're on the computer, take a screenshot or take a picture of it so that you are able to get in. After you do submit the application, usually it does take about 1 or 2 business days for us to send your acknowledgement email. This acknowledgement email will have your next steps and will also give you your student number, user ID, and temporary password. So you can wait for that to start uploading your documents, or you can do that right after you submit the application.
Perfect. And also to note, you'll probably hear over the coming months, certainly for those students that have already applied, or if you've been on any of our webinars, you might hear a different variation of saying student ID. So you might hear student number, Lakehead ID, Lakehead number, Lakehead student number. There's definitely a variety of different ways that we request that, but it is something that you'll hear from us quite often. It is the easiest way for us to track exactly what application you're referring to, confirm your identity. So confirm that you are emailing from the proper email attached to the proper application, of course. So if you're making any requests or if you're asking for more information, we know we're communicating with the right person. But like I said, to reiterate, and what Natalie said, echoing what she said, make sure you take a screenshot or simply write it down. If you still are traditional and like the pen and paper, write it down on a sticky note and don't lose that sticky note. Or if you just want to take it in a note on your phone or take a screenshot, do that as well, because this information is extremely important. It's something that you'll be using, like Natalie said, as your student. I was a Lakehead graduate, and I still know my 7-digit ID off the top of my head, and I'm sure Patrick can relate to that as well. Probably memorizing his student ID, because you'll be asked for it for 4 years at least. Alrighty, so what happens next? This is more related to after submitting the application. So we always encourage you to set up your MyInfo account right away. And then uploading supporting documents. So that's also really important. And then of course, we do take a jump there. So once you've uploaded your supporting documents, say for example, our admission team receives them, assesses them, sends you over that offer or the letter of acceptance. At that point, you can then accept the offer and send in your confirmation deposit, which will hold your seat in the program, which is very important to do, of course, as we do have programs that are limited enrollment. So if you do have our seats being filled, then there could be in cases where if offers do not have a confirmation by a certain deadline, then we could rescind that. Of course, we will always communicate that with you, and we want you to be fully aware. So once you do receive that letter of acceptance or offer of admission, read the full letter in detail. If you have any questions for us, of course, reach out to us and connect. You might be asking yourself, what is MyInfo? So it is the platform for all enrollment activities. It's a very large platform. You'll get very used to it over the coming weeks and months. It also is an easy access to your email and other important Lakehead updates. And more specific to applications, it is the place where you will upload any necessary supporting documents. You will also use that to track your application status. So that is live, being updated live. So as we make admission decisions, that is reflected within that system within 1 business day typically. So we always encourage you to check that before, if you do want to connect with us, so sending us an email, sending us a message, trying to get a hold of us by calling us. That is an option too, of course, but there might be a more significant delay, so we always encourage you to just simply track your application through your MyInfo account. It will also be where you eventually register for courses. It will be where you access your student accounts and you eventually make your fee payments. And last but not least, applying to residence. And I think that's a perfect segue into one of our questions right now that Patrick will answer regarding the deadline to apply for residence for fall 2020.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, just a quick question about when the deadline to apply to residence is. The residence deadline is still set at June 1st. However, as that deadline has passed, please note that they're accepting applicants until full at this point. So I would encourage you, if you are interested in living in residence at Lakehead University, that you do apply as soon as possible. And the reason, we will accept applications until we are at capacity, and we are not at capacity to my knowledge yet. Jordan, do you have anything to add there?
No, I would also reiterate, of course, if you are interested in living in residence, the important message here is that apply sooner than later, because once you do submit that application, then at least we can start working you into that plan to make sure that we have space available for you. If you have any questions for residents, if you want to explore residents, we've done plenty of webinars on them. There's plenty of photos online. There's a great website to explore the different options. In Aurelia, we do have the one option. In Thunder Bay, we have 3 options. If you need any clarity, though, if you want to get advice from us on maybe what's going to be best suited for you, connect with us, because we've seen some really significant advantages to students staying on residence, and we've also seen a large benefit just in the numbers of kind of the academic standards that we see our resident students. They're actually performing quite well too. So while we're here on the questions, we do have another one. I'll pass this off to maybe Natalie. It is a current student studying in their first year of university in South Africa, and they would like to eventually make it to Lakehead. Will they need to write an English test for their application?
Hi, John, and thanks so much for your question. If you have studied in an English medium institution for 3 or more years full time, so if your studies prior to being in South Africa were also in English, then we would not require an English proficiency test. So if you are applying, we would ask that you submit your university transcript as well as your high school transcript. And if on your high school transcript it is clear that the medium of instruction was English, then we would not require an English proficiency test. However, if it is not clear on your high school transcript, then we would just ask that you provide us a medium of instruction letter from your high school, just stating, your name, your date of birth, and confirming that the medium of instruction is English at that institution. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. And I know that most high schools at this point, most schools in general are familiar with this letter. So if it's not stated in their transcript, like Natalie said, that the medium of instruction was in English, all you have to do is simply request that letter. If they need any clarity, of course, we'd be happy to help them with that process and kind of walk them through exactly what we require for our admission requirements. Another question we have from John is, given the global pandemic going on, when is the deadline to apply for this year? So I'll let you, Natalie, answer that for fall 2020 and kind of what our general recommendations are for applying.
Sure. So our applications for fall are still open. Our applications for winter will open at the end of the month. So for the fall, I would encourage you to submit that application as soon as possible. It is June right now, so we only have less than 3 months before the semester starts. So if you are applying, for example, for an engineering program and the Faculty of Engineering need to review your file, that can take some time. So I would just encourage you to apply as soon as possible. Currently, we do not have our official published application deadline date has passed. However, we are keeping that application open for now. If you are considering applying for our nursing program, that application will close at the end of the week. So if that's a program that you are interested in applying, you only have 1 week to do that. However, for our other programs, we will keep those open unless they reach capacity.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So just being mindful of the time now, we have about 15 minutes to make it through the rest of the slides, and these upcoming slides are very important, of course. So I'll kind of walk through what is MyInfo. So obviously the previous screen we talked about why MyInfo is so important, as it is the main enrollment tool for all of our students. This is what the interface looks like for students when they are trying to log on. This is a screenshot from desktop. The mobile version looks very similar, but your username is there as the first slot. So for example, it is going to be a combination of your first name and your maybe potentially your middle name as well as your last name. And then it will typically have a number worked in there, for example. And then your password. So once you submit that original application, you will be provided with a temporary password. And also, to reiterate and echo what Natalie said, we do encourage that you change that password right away so it's easier for you to remember compared to being a randomized a code that we provide you that you could simply forget. Once you do log in, you'll see some of the main points that we've highlighted here. So this is under the Applicant tab. You'll see My Application in brackets Undergraduate. So you can track your application status, you can upload your application documents, you can accept your offer here, and you can also view your outstanding documents. And I know that outstanding documents is a tab that we always encourage students to review. So if they're over on the tracking my application status and their current status is incomplete and they're kind of curious, I feel like I've submitted everything. What am I missing? What do I need to send? If you head over to view my outstanding documents, we will actually clarify exactly what we are missing to complete your application and do the final review for admissibility into said program. If you need to connect with us, if you have any questions for us directly, of course you can do so by emailing us, direct messaging us, all that sort of stuff. And then you'll also see at the top right there, I do have an arrow pointed to the inbox as well. So I typically log into my email via my info account, and I simply click on that email icon, and it brings me directly to my Lakehead Gmail. where important communications will also come directly from international enrollment in our case, but also from your faculty, enrollment services, student success center, international student services. And we always encourage students are checking that regularly. Don't worry, you won't have over 1,000 emails when you first get there. This is actually not a screenshot of even my account. I'm one of those people that I keep my emails below 10, otherwise I get a little stressed out. So for a document checklist, I'll pass over to Natalie to walk through sort of a general document checklist for undergraduate programs.
Sure. So if you are an undergraduate applicant, the documents required are quite simple. So if you are a high school student and you have not completed high school yet, what we would require is your in-progress transcript. So this should include your grade 10, grade 11, and your first term grade 12, your in progress, your predicted grade 12. So it really depends on where you are in the world and what terminology you usually use, but we require some form of grade 12 marks and proof of registration. So we would ask that you upload that. Also, if you have attended a college or university, like I mentioned before, please provide those in progress or complete transcripts as well. Please also upload either your English proficiency test scores or your medium of instruction letter. However, if you are from a country, let's say like Nigeria or Ghana, where we do not require any proof of English proficiency, you do not need to provide any medium of instruction letter. There are a few programs that do require a portfolio, like our media studies or our music. So if you have applied for those will be required. When you go to your document upload, when you go to the document upload function, there will be a lot of different options for uploading, like admission profile, letter of permission, those things. Please disregard anything that does not apply for your application. Those are simply just options for all types of applications. Yeah, and so once your documents are uploaded, the undergraduate admissions will receive notice that you have uploaded documents. So we will assess your application. If all of the documents are complete and we can make an admission decision, then we will assess your application and issue you a letter of acceptance. That letter of acceptance can be downloaded through your MyInfo account under My Admission Assessment Letters. If your application is incomplete, what we will do is we will send you an email with the missing documents. So let's say you've only uploaded grade 11, then we will email you and ask you to upload with the specific documents that we require. So please ensure at the time of upload, please upload everything so that you can get your admission decision as soon as possible.
And so where can I upload is going to be a common question we might see. So once again, we encourage you to start accessing your MyInfo account right away. So once you receive that username and temporary password, get on there, change your password, and then start uploading those documents. We do have a few slides where we walk through kind of a really good recommendation on how you should name your documents and properly organize them. But you'll see under the applicant tab, under My Application in brackets undergraduate, there is an upload my application documents. Once you click on that, you'll see here, so the document upload form. You can see the action there is to add, and then it will request that you allow it to access your drive to then choose the file that you want. And then of course, like Natalie said, there are many listed required documents, or listed documents, I should say, pardon me. But they're not all necessarily required, so refer to your specific application. And if you are, of course, confused or if you need guidance on that, please reach out to us directly and we'd be happy to help you. So here are those tips that I said were coming up. So maybe, Natalie, you could chat about unofficial versus official documents, and then we'll kind of work through this list. Oh, you're just on mute, actually, Natalie.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so for all applicants, we do issue conditional letters of acceptance using unofficial documents. So this would be like an unverified document that you have a personal copy of. So you upload that online. For this year, because of the delays in mail due to COVID-19, we are accepting email documents as official from the institution. So if your school emails us a copy of your final document, your final high school graduation and grades, we will consider those official. If you have completed a board that can be verified online, for example, the WIAC, you can provide us your scratch card information and we can verify those results online, and then those WIAC results would be considered official. The same would go for boards like the CBSE, who issues a digital locker transcript, which can be considered official. Or if your board results can be verified online, you can send us your final board results with the details on how to check and verify those results online, and then those would be considered official.
For sure. And then going through these other tips quickly is uploading each document separately. So what we've seen is if you do have, for example, bundled PDFs, in some cases they don't upload properly. So we always encourage documents be uploaded separately. So if you do have a high school transcript for grade 10 and 11, and then you've made, say, for example, transferred high schools in grade 12, so you'll have two high school transcripts that you want to submit, upload them separately. So they do need to come into us separately in that case. Also, do not upload documents that have not been requested. For example, we don't require your passport, so we do not need you to upload that. It'd be extra work for you to do that, and we don't require it, of course. There are, in some cases, browser errors. So, for example, we encourage you to use Chrome or Firefox. We've noticed some errors with Safari. And also that file naming convention. So something that we do recommend is that you actually put your name, that student ID number in there, and then the transcript. So maybe the school's name or the type of document it is. It helps us track that more easily and also kind of align them exactly with your application. So decisions timeline. Once you've submitted all the required documents, our undergraduate admissions team can typically do that within 10 business days. But one thing that I really want to stress here is that's when we received all the documents required for submission. So it's not necessarily when you submit the first document, you're not going to hear back from us within 10 days if we still require 2 or 3 other documents. So that's a really important note. Sometimes we'll see applicants submit 1 or 2 documents and think that they're going to receive that letter of acceptance within those 10 days. I know, Natalie, maybe you could speak to the asterisks there and in certain cases where we might go past the 10 business days.
Sure. So if you are an applicant to the engineering program and you have completed post-secondary studies, that 10 business days may be extended if your application has to go to the Faculty of Engineering, as well as for our nursing program. As it is a limited enrollment program, we go out with rounds of offers for that program. So we do not issue offers to that program on a rolling basis.
Awesome, thank you so much. And so this is something also that Natalie prefaced, is the letter of acceptance. So how will I know if a decision has been made? Of course, when you track your My Application status, and for example, if the application status in there is updated, and you will receive an email notification, you can log into your MyInfo account. You can go into My Admissions Assessment Letters, and you can actually download your letter of acceptance. And then you'll have that full copy on file for yourself. And there's no delay in waiting for it to come through hard copy mail. Correct me if I'm wrong, Natalie, I don't believe that we are sending hard copies right now, just given COVID-19. I know traditionally we do, but I'll let you speak to that maybe.
Yeah, you're right. I believe that international enrollment does send out an email that includes the letter of acceptance package, but there's nothing at this time being sent out in the mail.
Awesome. And then, of course, the next stage of receiving that letter of acceptance is then going into accept your offer. And so for undergraduate students, your offer is accessible via MyInfo. Once again, you can accept your offer via MyInfo as well, and you can also pay your confirmation deposit on there. So you'll see the screenshot on the right there. Again, that My Application in brackets undergraduate is probably one of the most important tabs within MyInfo. And you can simply click accept my offer and we'll walk through that process. For the confirmation deposit, I'll pass it over to Natalie to kind of walk us through these 4 points here.
Sure. So the confirmation deposit is $400, and that can be paid through your MyInfo account. That is accredited to your tuition fee, so your student account. The deadline is listed on your letter of acceptance. And I will just also comment, I know there was a question before about extending that deadline. So if you have not been admitted to a limited enrollment program at the undergraduate level, for example, nursing, and have not yet paid your confirmation deposit, however, the deadline has passed, you can still pay that deposit and reserve your seat. If you do have any questions to see if your offer is still valid, you can check that through your MyInfo account. If you have an expired offer, then that means your offer has expired, and you can send us an email and see if it can be reinstated. However, if you are still seeing that you have a valid offer on your MyInfo account, you can absolutely still pay that confirmation deposit.
Awesome. And so to pay that confirmation deposit, all you have to do is log on to your MyInfo tab, or log on to MyInfo, select the applicant tab, and then click Pay My Confirmation Deposit. So I just want to note, of course, we're right at 11 now, and I know that we had Natalie for 1 hour. So I have one question for Natalie before she has to head out. I'll let her go there. It is, do all engineering applicants go to the faculty for review?
Hi, thanks for your question. No, so applicants who are either missing a program-specific prerequisite requirement, so for engineering, we require English, chemistry, physics, and mathematics at the grade 12 level. So if an applicant is missing one of those prerequisite requirements and they are a high school applicant, the Faculty of Engineering needs to review the application. If the applicant's average is below our minimum requirement or has below a 60% in mathematics, the Faculty of Engineering assesses the application, and if the applicant has any type of post-secondary education. So undergraduate admissions, I would say, probably assesses 85% of the engineering applications. However, there are instances, non-traditional applicants either missing a prerequisite, their average is below our minimum requirements, or have any type of post-secondary education. Those are the instances where the Faculty of Engineering would need to assess the application.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I do want to acknowledge, thank you again for joining us, Natalie. We're just past 11 now, so if you have to head out, by all means, you can do that. I know that myself and Patrick can cover some of the other questions that we marked that we would answer, and then we will wrap up the webinar for today. You can certainly join us again this Wednesday, where Natalie will be back with, as well as the Graduate Studies admissions team, will be back to chat about similar questions as well. So the next question I have, I'll pass over to Patrick, is with regards to scholarships. So this one in particular is for sports scholarships for the institution.
Yeah, thank you for this question. So Lakehead University has a great and robust undergraduate scholarship program. It's a merit-based scholarship program, and what that means is that scholarships at Lakehead for undergraduate students are based off of your grades. The higher your final grades are, the more money you will be entitled to as an incoming undergraduate student. In terms of sports scholarships, there are not very many sports scholarships, and the funding for sports bursaries and scholarships is often at the discretion of the coach of the varsity team you are belonging to. So what I would encourage you to do if you are a varsity athlete or an incoming varsity athlete is connect with your coach. And when you get to campus, for all students, Lakehead University does have a great portal for smaller bursaries that can be applied for once you are a Lakehead student on campus. And I would encourage you to touch base with the Student Success Center or the International Student Services Center to access those bursaries.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrick. So the next question we have is related to graduate studies. We're happy to answer that, even though, of course, our focus today was applying to an undergraduate program. This student would like to know if they can send official documents to the Graduate Studies Office yet with regards to converting their conditional letter of acceptance to unconditional. So every Wednesday we do meet up with undergraduate and graduate admissions teams, and this is a common question that we've been receiving. I know that Graduate Studies recently implemented a new change or new policy regarding this. If you do require an unconditional offer letter, and you have submitted all of your documents, you currently have a letter of acceptance, you can actually email gstudent@lakeheadu directly, and you can explain why you need that unconditional offer letter, request that from them, and they will work with you to provide you with an unconditional offer letter with a few stipulations, of course, in place so that they can work through that in full detail. For this student also, if you would like to join us this Wednesday for our weekly, Wednesday weekly, you can certainly ask them questions as well while we're live. My last question is from John. Do I need to send my documents for evaluation before applying? So a simple answer to that is no. So once you do apply online, that's actually when we will need those documents. So if you submit your online undergrad, if you get help with an approved agent of Lakehead, any one of those options, once you've actually submitted that application, you've received confirmation that we've also got that application, that's when you can then submit your documents for review. We always encourage you, of course, to use the upload function on your MyInfo account to make that process quick and easy. And then as Natalie mentioned, we are changing our policies and procedures to help assist our applicants to make sure that if you need to send us official documents for that unconditional letter, you can actually connect with your home institution and have them email it to us directly. That's just one of the ways that we're trying to help our applicants. Again, to reiterate, if you have any questions for us, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to help answer and address those. I'll quickly do this. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know that we've covered quite a bit today. So we are on Facebook, Lakehead University International, with a Facebook group already started for the incoming class of 2020. We're over on Instagram, Lakehead International, going live, Instagram live every Tuesday and Thursday with a current student. We sit down and chat with them about their Lakehead experience. We're over on Twitter, Lakehead INTL. We're also on YouTube, Lakehead University, with 2 dedicated playlists for international audiences. There's Lakehead International and Lakehead International Lives. The Lives playlist is where all of our webinar recordings do end up. And the other playlist, just Lakehead International, is kind of a good way for you to explore Lakehead, get to know them a bit more, but also hear from students and hear their testimonials. Last but not least, if you are from China, you can join us over on WeChat, Weibo, or Youku. Those are the platforms we currently operate over there. And for all of our students, I certainly encourage you, we know it's an important step in your journey to explore the campus. Take a virtual campus tour. So if you head over to lakeheadu.ca/tours, you can explore either Thunder Bay or Aurelia. You get to see the buildings, the facilities, the surrounding nature and beauty of each of our campuses. And we're pretty confident that once you see where you will be studying, you'll also be sold and you'll fall in love with Lakehead just like we have. So once again, I want to thank you for joining us. We covered quite a bit today. Once again, if you have any questions, though, please don't hesitate to reach out to us after the fact. Or if you're watching this as a recording, you can always comment on those videos and we will get that message. Otherwise, I want to thank you once again, and we will hopefully see you at an upcoming event. Bye for now.